In the previous lectures, we saw the cost distribution or cost composition of a project. There are two types of cost. First is the fixed capital investment or total capital investment, which comprises of fixed capital, startup cost and also working capital, and there is total production cost. We have seen in detail what are the cost components of this particular cost, these particular two costs, that is the fixed capital investment or total capital investment and the total production cost. Now, we take the theme further in this lecture and try to develop some simple cost models. For example, when we are trying to develop a process, conceptually, that means basically on pen and paper, we cannot go for detailed design of each and every equipment at the initial stage, and that is what, because of several process variables that are there, we get very large number of process alternatives, and therefore we need to have some quick method of estimating the relative prices of different flow sheets. Now, the cost model of the detailed cost model we have seen in previous lecture, it is quite comprehensive. So, if you start estimating each and every cost, well, then it becomes a very tiresome exercise and you may not be able to screen many alternatives in that way. So, what we will do in this lecture is that we will try to simplify or convert the total capital investment in some quantity which we can estimate very quickly on pen and paper. So, what we have to do, like for example, if we have to estimate the total capital investment for a particular flow sheet, okay, then you retain only the major equipment of the flow sheet and design them only to the extent where you can estimate their cost with reasonable accuracy, and that is known as the on-site cost. Well, that thing we have seen in previous lecture, that the total capital investment is on-site cost or what is known as inside battery limit cost and off-site cost, which is outside battery limit cost. So, we have to now develop, in this lecture we will develop a simple model with which we can estimate total capital investment only on the basis of the cost of major equipments of the process which we are going to design. Total capital investment is fixed capital plus working capital plus startup cost. Now, startup cost are additional costs that are incurred at the beginning of the process or at the startup of the process. These are incurred because of process modifications that we need to make to meet the design specification of equipment, or the startup labor, additional workforce may be required at the beginning of the process or at the startup of the process. Then the product that is formed may not meet required standard initially when the process is reaching steady state, and therefore that is an initial loss or the loss of raw material, that is also included in the startup cost. Then we may have to debug the process, like if some variable is chosen wrongly, some pressure, temperature, that correction we have to make, and then there are the cost required for that particular modification is also included in the startup cost. Typically, the startup costs are 10% of the fixed capital investment. In some companies, the startup costs are included in working capital. Okay, so that is taken care of, or sometimes they also included in fixed capital, that startup cost. Now, let us revise briefly the cost tree or the composition of total capital investment. This we have seen in detail in last two lectures. The total capital investment has three components, as I said: fixed capital, working capital and startup cost. Fixed capital is further divided into direct cost and indirect cost. Direct costs are further divided into on-site or inside battery limit cost or off-site and outside battery limit cost. On-site cost include purchased equipment, the installation of equipment, commissioning of the equipment, instrumentation and control that you need to provide, then the piping, then electrical equipment and material, that is all ISBL. Off-site cost include the cost of building, process building, administration building, then the yard improvement, service facilities and their installation, land cost, utilities, non-process equipment, like for example packaging, distribution, having a warehouse for storage of finished products. Okay. The indirect cost include the cost of engineering and supervision, the construction expenses, the contractor's fee and the contingency. This is the money reserved for unforeseen expenses. Working capital includes, working capital is the actual cost that is incurred for running of the plant. This includes the cost of raw material. You have to keep 1 month supply, 1 month stock in case the raw material supply is interrupted. Okay. Then the finished products in stock, if the products are not going to find immediate market. Okay. then you need to store them for some time before they are actually transported to the market. Then the accounts receivable, your customers may not pay money immediately, so you have to have some margin for that money that is due. Accounts receivable, cash on hand, this is for salaries, wages, so on and so forth, and then accounts payable and taxes payable. Okay. So, that is composition of working capital. Now, with this tree, we will try to see whether we can estimate the total capital investment only on the basis of the on-site cost, which is the total cost of major equipments that we are going to design. Now, let us develop a simple cost model. As I said, the startup cost typically 10% of fixed capital. As far as the offsite costs are concerned, those depend on what scale of plant. If you are going to go for a grassroots plant from scratch, the offsite cost may be 2 or sometimes even 4 times the cost of on-site cost. However, if we are going for expansion of an existing facility, then the offsite cost are typically 40 to 50% of the on-site cost. And therefore, we take the offsite cost. We are developing a simple model for expansion of existing facility, and therefore, we take offsite cost as 0.45 times the on-site cost. Okay. Now, let us see the indirect cost. Indirect cost has components as the owner's cost, that is the engineering, supervision and construction expenses, that we call as owner's cost. Plus the contingency and contractor's fee. Now, typically owner's cost are about 5% of the total on-site and off-site cost. And the contingency, now this depends on what kind of process you are going to implement, but typically contingency could be taken as 20% of the on-site and off-site cost. Okay. Now, with this approximation, we can write that fixed capital is equal to on-site cost plus off-site cost plus owner's cost plus contingency and contractor's fee, and this typically is 0.2 times on-site plus off-site. This is 0.05 times on-site plus off-site, and then this is as it is, and therefore, we have simple expression for fixed capital, that is 1.25 times on-site plus off-site cost. Now, total capital investment has 3 components. That is the fixed capital plus working capital. Now, working capital is typically 15% of total capital investment. and startup cost I already told you is 0.1 times fixed capital investment. Now, if you substitute everything here, then what you get is total investment, total capital investment is equal to fixed capital plus 0.15 times total capital investment, that is for working capital, and 0.1 times fixed capital, that is for startup cost. And then if you rearrange this, you get total investment is equal to, if you simplify this, you get 1.3 times fixed capital. But fixed capital itself is a sum of on-site and off-site cost, and then with the assumption that we made a few minutes ago, off-site costs are typically 0.45 times on-site cost. If you substitute this here, then you get a very simple formula for total capital investment, that is equal to 1.3. Oh, here we have to multiply by factor by 1.5, that I missed out. Please make this correction. Fixed capital is 1.25 times on-site and off-site cost. Please make this correction. Okay, so this is typically 1.625 times the on-site plus off-site cost. Total capital investment is 1.625 times this thing. So now we go further and then we substitute the off-site cost in terms of on-site cost. Total capital investment is 1.625 times on-site plus off-site cost, that is 1.625 times on-site plus 0.45 times on-site cost, and then this is 2.36 times on-site cost. This is an important formula that we have derived. Of course, this applies only for expansion of existing facility, applies for small scale process or expansion of existing facility. But still it gives a very handy tool of estimating the total capital investment just by estimating the cost of major equipments that are there on the flow sheet. Having done this, we shall go further and see what are the profit for the process, or profit here before tax is the revenue that you earn minus the total production cost. This is on the assumption that you have you own the capital that you have invested. If you have borrowed the capital from bank or some other funding agency, then the interest that you have to pay or the term installment on that loan that you have to pay is also deducted from this. Profit is revenue minus total production cost. The equipment of the plant wears with time. For example, that applies for everything. Suppose you buy a car or a truck for business, then vehicle will wear out with time, and therefore we have to set aside some funds for replacement of this equipment once its lifetime is over, okay, or replacement of certain parts of the equipment once they when those parts wear out. Now, government considers this particular cost as a legitimate cost, and therefore it allows deduction of a fraction of cost of equipment as it wears out from the revenue before you show the profit for paying the tax. So that is known as depreciation. Depreciation is essentially the reduction in the value of the equipment with time. And you have to set aside some funds from your profit to replace the equipment once its lifetime is over, or replace the parts of equipment when it is required, or repair, or so on and so forth. Okay. You can deduct the depreciation fund from the profit before tax, okay, in each year, but the equipment will run for 5 years or 10 years. So, the funds that are deducted for the replacement of equipment may not be actually used for this purpose. They might be invested in some other ventures, or a portion of profit invested in other businesses for expansion of your own facility or in other businesses. So, that thing is completely dependent on the company, but you are allowed to deduct some part of the profit as depreciation. Now, let us see the concept of depreciation in detail. What I told you was a very basic depreciation. The concept of depreciation is based on the fact that physical properties and facilities deteriorate and decline in usefulness with time, and thus the actual value of the facility decreases. What are the types of depreciation? The first one is physical depreciation. This is a reduction in value due to changes in the physical aspects of the property. For example, wear, tear, corrosion, then accidents or deterioration due to age. And then because of this, the serviceability of the property is reduced. The next is functional depreciation. And this is due to reduction in value as a result of factors other than those listed, than those for physical depreciation. Now, these are essentially the obsolescence due to technological advances. This is many times mostly applicable for electronic devices. Then decrease in demand for the service given by equipment. Then abandonment of the enterprise. or it could be the inadequate or insufficient capacity of the equipment. Depreciation is called accounting artifact. Why? Because it gets added and subtracted from corporate books. However, the major impact of depreciation is in terms of income tax that the corporation has to pay. So, that point we note. Depreciation is more than an artifact. Due to its effect on taxes that one has to pay. Now, in some cases, amortization is the word that is used in case of depreciation. Amortization means deduction for tangibles with limited useful lives. Deduction for tangibles with limited useful life. And thus, the patents and copyrights are also included in the depreciation, or patents and copyrights are the amortizable entities. Now, let us see some basic aspects. Okay. What are the depreciable properties and what are non-depreciable properties? How do you distinguish between them? Depreciable investment. Depreciable investment is basically all property with limited useful life typically more than 1 year, used in trade, business or production of income is depreciable. So, that is how we define the depreciable property. Okay. All physical facilities plus the costs such as design and engineering, shipping and field direction that are depreciable. All physical facilities are depreciable. What are not depreciable? Working capital is not depreciable, startup cost is not depreciable. Moreover, the inventories that are held for sale are not depreciable. I talked of accounts receivable, that sometimes, or the product in stock. Okay, so product in stock or inventories held for sale are not considered in depreciation. And finally, depreciation is not subject to inflation. To calculate depreciation, we need to know certain parameters, and these are First, the current value. Now, this is the value of the equipment or of an asset in its condition at the time of evaluation. This is not the initial value. Now, the book value is the difference between the original property cost and all depreciation charged up to a time. Is original cost minus all depreciation charged. Market value is the price that an asset would fetch if it is sold in open market. And then we have salvage value. Salvage value is the net amount of money that is obtained from sale of used property when its life is over. Now, in most of the time, the used property is sold as is where is condition. As is where is means the owner will not pay the cost of transportation. Okay? But in some cases, in some rare cases, the transportation or the removal of equipment from its place, okay, is that those charges are incurred by the owner or the original owner, and those are deducted from this. So that point we also note. Salvage value is the net amount of money obtained by sale of property after its lifetime minus the cost for removal and transportation. In some cases, you have to also pay charges for selling the equipment if you are using an e-market to the site owner. Okay. That is what. If the property is not of any use, then its value is called as scrap value. Then the third term that we need to define is the recovery period. Recovery period is the period over which the use of property is economically feasible. That is also known as the service life. Recovery period or service life. So that point to note, this is the period over which use of property is economically feasible. Now, it is the recovery period over which the depreciation is charged. It is also the time over which depreciation is charged. Now, let us see some simple methods for estimating depreciation. Estimation and calculation of depreciation. There are several methods available for this. The simplest method is the straight line method. Also abbreviated as SLM. The second is the double declining balance method, and the third is modified accelerated cost recovery method. That is abbreviated as MACRS, Accelerated Cost Recovery System. The length, the rate and duration or length of time over which or during which depreciation is charged is a matter of government policy. But let us see these different methods of depreciation. The simplest one is the straight line method, SLM. Here the property value is assumed to decrease linearly with time. Over the recovery period. Or in that case, no salvage value or scrap value is taken. So then the depreciation, annual depreciation D that we denote is equal to V, the original investment in property at start, divided by N, where the length of straight line recovery period. V is the original investment in property or original cost of property, and N is the length of recovery period. Now the recovery period varies from industry to industry. Now some examples are like, for example, information systems including computer, they have a lifespan of 5 years. Then manufacture of chemical and allied product, they have typical lifespan of 9.5 years. Then petroleum refining 16 years. Coal gasification 18 years. Or rubber products 14 years. So that is the straight line method for estimating depreciation. Now let us see the MACRS method, modified accelerated system. But before that, we shall see the double declining balance method, because MACRS method is based on the classic double declining balance method. The former or MACRS method is a modified version of latter. Now here we assume no salvage value or scrap value, and then half year conventions are usually used. Now double declining balance method, the basic principle is that the method allows a depreciation charge in each year of recovery, that is twice the average rate of recovery on the remaining undepreciated balance for full recovery period. That point we note. Okay. Allowance of depreciation charge in each year of recovery period that is twice the average rate of recovery on the remaining undepreciated balance. On the remaining undepreciated balance. Now, let us see an example how it is calculated. Let us say that the original cost of an item is rupees 100 and the period of recovery is 5 years. Then the depreciation in the first year according to double declining balance method is 100 divided by 5, that is the recovery per year, into 2, twice the recovery. Okay, so that is 40. Now the undepreciated portion is 60, 100 minus 40, 60, and then in the second year it is 60 divided by 5 into 2, that is 24. Okay. Then the undepreciated portion after second year is 60 minus 24, that is 36, and then depreciation for the third year is 36 by 5 into 2, that is 14.4, and so on and so forth. So this is how you have to calculate the depreciation. Now the double declining balance method always takes fraction of the remaining balance, therefore the asset is never fully depreciated. That point you note. Double declining balance never gives complete depreciation, as it takes the fraction of undepreciated amount each time. Now, how does MACRS method is different from this one I told you that MACRS method is a special case or modified case of double declining balance. Now MACRS method overcomes the drawback of double declining balance by shifting to straight line method of depreciation for the first year. Now let us see how. The same problem, rupees 100 asset initial value, how does it decline, and 5 years of now here the first year depreciation is by straight line method, that is 100 by 5, 20. Undepreciated amount is 100 minus 20, that is 80, and then for the second year depreciation is 2 into 80 by 5, that is 32. Then third year depreciation is 2 into 80 minus 32 by 5, that is 19.2, and so on and so forth. So you can prepare a table for different properties with different age. Okay. So that was all about the depreciation. Now let us see another aspect of this thing, that is insurance. Now medium scale project typically incur about 1% of the fixed capital investment as annual insurance cost. Now insurance cost may form very small fraction of the project cost if it is necessary to consider insurance carefully to ascertain economic and safe operation of plant against emergencies and unforeseen developments. Okay. So that point we note. Ascertain insurance is basically to ascertain safe and economic operation of plant against emergencies and unforeseen expenses. Now there are different types of insurances. I will mention briefly major insurance requirement. First is the fire insurance or similar emergency insurance on buildings, equipment and all other owned, used or stored property. Then public liability insurance, that includes bodily injury and property loss or damage. Then business interruption insurance, which is for loss of income due to business interruption caused by fire or other emergency calamities, okay, which also result in loss of property. Then workers compensation insurance and marine and transportation insurance for all property that is in transit. Now having said this, let us develop a brief expression for the net profit. Profit before tax, as I told you, is revenue minus total production cost. Now out of this, some funds are reserved for depreciation. So the profit for tax, on which tax will be charged, will be revenue minus total production cost minus depreciation. Now, the typical tax rates, corporate tax rates are 30 to 40% in India. So, we take a value of 40% that we assume. So, the profit after tax is 1 minus 0.4 or 0.6, which is profit before tax, minus the depreciation cost. Then the net cash flow to the company, or which is also known as net cash accruals, is equal to profit after tax plus the depreciation fund So, this is profit after tax is 0.6 into profit before tax minus depreciation plus depreciation fund, and profit before tax is revenue minus total production cost and therefore what we have is the net cash accrual is 0.6 into revenue minus total production cost plus 0.4 into depreciation. So, this is the net cash accrual of the company per year, okay, or net cash flow of the company. Based on this net cash flow, we shall estimate in the next lecture, okay, the profitability parameter, but before that we shall see the time value of this money. This much money company is going to earn on each year, and let us say if the operation of company is over 15 years, and if the company is depositing this particular fund with some other agency or this thing, then this money grows over time, and therefore the net cash flow of the company changes from year to year. So, that we shall see in the next lecture.